Have you ever felt like you're getting close to something you want: success, happiness, a good relationship, and then somehow things fall apart, often because of your own actions? Maybe you procrastinate when something really matters, push people away when they get too close, or give up right before things start working. And afterward, you're left wondering, why do I do this to myself? This pattern is called self-sabotage. And while it can feel frustrating and confusing, it's not random. It's not because you don't want success or happiness. In fact, most of the time, self-sabotage happens because a deeper part of you is trying to protect you even if it ends up hurting you in the long run. At its core, self-sabotage is a conflict between two parts of your mind. One part wants growth, progress, and something better, but another part feels unsafe with change. And when those two parts collide, your behavior often leans toward what feels familiar, if it's not what you truly want. This pattern usually begins in childhood. If you grew up in an environment where failure was criticized, where mistakes were not safe, or where success brought pressure or expectations, your brain may have developed a fear around progress. You may have learned that stepping forward can lead to stress, judgment, or emotional discomfort. So as an adult, when you start moving towards something meaningful, that old fear gets activated. And instead of continuing forward, your mind creates ways to slow you down or stop you completely. Not because you don't deserve success, but because part of you is trying to avoid the emotional risk that comes with it. One of the most common forms of self-sabotage is procrastination. You delay starting something important, not because you're lazy, but because starting feels overwhelming. It brings up fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, or fear of not meeting expectations. So instead of facing those feelings, your mind avoids the task altogether. Another form is perfectionism. You might set extremely high standards for yourself, believing that everything has to be perfect before you move forward. But because perfection is impossible, you end up stuck. You keep preparing, adjusting, and overthinking, ever fully taking action. In this way, perfectionism becomes a hidden form of self-sabotage. Self-sabotage also shows up in relationships. You might push people away when they start getting too close, create unnecessary conflict, or doubt the connection, even when things are going well. This often comes from a fear of vulnerability or a fear of being hurt. If closeness once led to pain, your mind may try to prevent it from happening again by creating distance. Another powerful factor behind self-sabotage is self-worth. If you don't fully believe that you deserve success, love, or happiness, you may unconsciously block it when it comes into your life. You might feel uncomfortable when things are going well, as if it's too good to be true, and without realizing it, you may create situations that bring you back to what feels familiar. This is because your brain prefers familiarity over happiness. Even if a pattern is unhealthy, if it's what you're used to, it feels safe. So when something new and positive enters your life, it can feel unfamiliar and therefore unsafe. Self-sabotage becomes a way to return to what your mind recognizes, even if it's not what you truly want. There's also a deep connection between self-sabotage and fear of failure. If failing once made you feel ashamed, rejected, or not good enough, your mind may try to prevent that feeling from happening again. And one way to avoid failure is to never fully try. If you don't give your full effort, you can always tell yourself, "I could have done better." This protects your sense of identity, but it also keeps you stuck. On the other side, there is also fear of success. This might sound strange, but success can bring change, responsibility, and attention. It can challenge your identity and push you out of your comfort zone. If you're not ready for that, your mind may resist it by creating obstacles. Another hidden cause of self-sabotage is emotional overwhelm. When something feels too big, too important, or too uncertain, your brain may shut down. It becomes easier to avoid, delay, or distract yourself than to face the intensity of those emotions. Over time, these patterns become automatic. You may not even realize you're self-sabotaging in the moment. It just feels like hesitation, doubt, or lack of motivation. But underneath it, there is always a reason, a belief, a fear, or an emotional memory that is driving the behavior. But here's the most important truth. Self-sabotage is not a sign that you are broken. It's a sign that part of you is trying to protect you in a way that no longer serves you. And once you understand that, you can begin to change it. The first step is awareness. You have to start noticing your patterns. When do you procrastinate? When do you pull away? When do you give up or hold back? Instead of judging yourself, try to understand what you're feeling in those moments. What are you afraid of? What feels uncomfortable or unsafe? The next step is learning to sit with discomfort. Growth always comes with some level of discomfort because it involves stepping into something new. Instead of avoiding that feeling, you can begin to tolerate it, little by little. This helps your mind realize that discomfort is not the same as danger. It's also important to challenge the beliefs behind your behavior. If you believe you're not good enough, not capable, or not deserving, those beliefs will continue to shape your actions. Question them. Ask yourself if they are actually true, or if they are based on past experiences that no longer define you. Another key step is taking small, consistent action. Instead of waiting until you feel completely ready, start with small steps. This builds confidence and reduces the fear associated with bigger actions. Over time, your brain begins to associate progress with safety instead of risk. Self-compassion is also essential. Be patient with yourself. These patterns didn't form overnight, and they won't disappear instantly. There will be moments where you fall back into old habits, but that doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're learning. You also need to redefine what success and failure mean to you. Failure is not a reflection of your worth, and success is not something to fear, it's something you can learn to handle step by step. Changing these definitions helps reduce the emotional weight behind your actions. At the end of the day, self-sabotage is not about holding yourself back, it's about protecting yourself in the only way you once knew how. But now, you have the awareness to choose differently. Because the moment you stop fighting yourself and start understanding yourself is the moment you begin to move forward without holding yourself back.